this framework came out of the action framework that Dave Snowden talks about, and also Patrick Lamb sent me this little booklet about how to grow your competencies in KM. Since I'm chair of KM, we're going to hold a virtual conversation with Patrick Lamb on May 3rd. But I started thinking about, in his framework, he talks about, how there's explicit information out there. And many of you are very good at giving that explicit information to people. Then all of us have definable skills. Sometimes we don't always know our skills until we start kind of using them in different, through our different careers. I think what's the trickiest skill is this heuristic, the learned habits or behaviors, and how you unlearn things so you can learn new habits and behavior. That's what is the hardest thing to really change, because we get stuck sort of in a set model and how to kind of break out of that model. The tacit knowledge is what you gain from your experiences, from work and from different relationships you have. So that's what you want to grow. Once you can kind of break and figure out what you have to unlearn and learn new, then you're going to start gaining new experiences. And, like I was telling Mary, just because I left the libraries, there's still, and sometimes, a feeling of guilt. And yet, I'm so excited about being in the position I'm in because I see that I've grown a lot in avenues I wouldn't have known, and it's been tricky because I had to sort of walk on eggshells at points coming from the libraries and kind of having issues, between IT and libraries at times. But, they hired me for a reason. They thought I was competent to, work on this. Actually, this was probably one of the projects they had wanted me to work on. And then, we all have the natural talents. The other main thing, I think that, two corner pieces is the social capital, building those relationships. And they don't have to be relationships that are online. They can be physical relationships. And, just from working with a lot of different groups, through SLA, I've built those relationships. And then you have people you can kind of fall back on, that you can kind of count on, that you know how to work with them. Like when Marie and I worked on the 23 things, we both have different sides of the technology. Like I'm a big wiki fan and she's a big blog fan. So, we're good, I don't want to say bedfellows, but we're good bedfellows because we have complementary skills but different tools. So, you start kind of learning people's strengths and you can kind of ask their advice about things. So, just the importance of building that framework. And then this was posted by Rebecca Jones on Dysart and Jones blog. And how you manage change. That we all have these big visions, but sometimes when we hit against the barriers, it's hard for us to kind of move forward because we get kind of stuck on the barrier and we're like, oh, I just want to move forward. But one of the things that we can do is what's core. So some of what I hope to share with you today is things I did in order to build my skills so that I could keep moving forward, even if we hit up against barriers at Geographic. And then what were those critical success factors? Maybe not everything you'll have to do all at once. You can let some barriers exist, but you could still allow for some things, what are the core things to be critical in realizing what you want to do or move forward, and then what are those strategies and tactics. So I sort of liked this visual. So Google Apps, how many people are Gmail, Google type? So Google Apps is what Google is calling an umbrella of applications that they're marketing as a package to organizations. It is similar to Gmail and all the consumer-based products, but Google has taken a curve in the road and is essentially marketing Google Apps to educational organizations, to nonprofits, to regular organizations. Although Geographic is a nonprofit, we also have a for-profit side. And in order to get better service from Google, we actually have what they call the Premier Edition. So we pay $50 per license per user. It helps us, too, to be able to charge back to every division for each license. We have more access to Google's APIs, so we can do stuff on the back end. But the standard edition is sometimes good enough. But it includes, through the Premier Edition, the Standard Edition, the Educational Edition, they all have a dashboard. You just don't have quite as many features in the free version as you do in the paid-for version. Catholic University now has all their students on Google Apps, and they have access to mail, calendar, and documents. They didn't turn on the Sites feature, to my, alarm, because that's part of the core, product. That's really a great feature. But it includes then messaging, mail, calendar, chat, and it includes collaboration, document, groups, sites. It also has videos, video component. So depending on what account you take out, depends on how much service you have. For the Premier version, you get 50 gigabytes of email storage. For the standard education, you get 7 gigabytes, which is the same as Gmail. You get 7 gigabytes. So just setting kind of the tone of what Google Apps is. So what I have here is actually my Google Apps. What I did was, Geographic got the Google Apps account, but in order for me to learn it better and kind of understand all the intricacies, I ended up taking out another domain name. I have a domain called cybersailors.com. So I took out another domain through GoDaddy for $7 a year. That's called cybersailors.org. And I applied that to a free version of Google Apps Standard Edition. So this is my email box and my calendar. Looks very similar to the regular version of Gmail and calendaring, but it also gives me some features on the back end where I could have 20 licenses, 20 emails within my domain account if I so choose. I was also able to, through this account, I was able to create a site for my students at Catholic. Since Catholic students don't have access to the sites right now, we are using an open site for the main kind of class, and then a closed site for our class discussion. And then we're also using a combination of the Google Documents to share presentations from guest speakers. I also immersed my husband's company into the whole Google Apps experience, because I'm like his little IT shop. So PorleyRoofing.com has now moved also over their mail, their form for submitting requests. So this is how I end up trying to learn a tool as best I can, even though it doesn't have this full feature. So I wanted to take you all kind of on a tour of some of the things at Geographic that we've been doing. And what's really interesting is some of the stuff that I learned in the libraries, like using Jing to record videos and stuff. I've been able to actually use a lot of these like learning tools that we kind of knew in the libraries. I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. Or we've been doing virtual training with our satellite offices using WebEx. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. I kept knowing always how to use the tools automatically. Just because I think in our profession, we tend to kind of know a lot of different, tools and technology. So this essentially is my inbox in Google, and you can have it where you can, it looks a lot like Google, but you can brand it with the National Geographic. We're using a lot of calendar functionality. People really like the calendar feature because they can create their own calendar views or their leave calendar. So we can have up to, and they also have a feature, and I think this is part of Gmail. You can actually put a picture behind your calendar if you want to now. So we use our leave calendar. We have paid calendars. I'm actually able to share my Geographic calendar. Mary and I are doing an embedded librarianship class at SLA, so I was able to actually share my Geographic calendar with Mary. So if she needs to book something with me, she can see my booking when I'm free, when I'm